subscribe or gives us thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Yeah, welcome again to KCTV. In the studio, we have Dr. Ondimu. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. How are you doing today?
Good. A lot has been going in politics in Kenya now. We are looking at the Kenya at a glance. We have had so many events which will have implication. But first of all, we just lost Wafula Chebukati, the former chairperson of IEBC, and I think I saw that people are having a mixed view. I don't know whether Kenyans are becoming they are not Christian enough. That some people are feeling that one of the persons said that he doesn't want to monitor Chebukati. What is your view about his tenure, 6-year tenure as chairman of IEBC?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank you again, and it's another good day here for me to join you in the KCTV discussion. And first and foremost, I want to express my sincere condolences to the family of the late Chebukati. Our prayers certainly and thoughts are with them. There is no human loss, life loss that is that anybody can celebrate in any way, shape, or form, regardless of what the behaviors or whatever it is that person had on earth. We should always wish the best for those who you think have injured you, so they live long enough to see how you prosper and to see how things are done. And if those Kenyans who are celebrating, I heard some are actually happy that he has passed on, and some don't know exactly where to praise him. It's obviously because they had very strong opinions about how he handled the previous elections. He was the only chairman of IEBC who handled 3 presidential elections within a span of only 6 years. Not anybody in the history of Kenya did what he did.
Yeah.
He stood firm for what he believed in. You may have disagreed with him on what his beliefs were, but what we cannot take away from him is the fact that he was a man of principle, and the principles he held, he stood by them, regardless of the pressures that he received. Even from the most powerful and in precarious situations, he still stood by those tenets. So for that reason, therefore, it's my humble opinion to say that it's a big loss to the Republic of Kenya to lose such a very principled, again, young man at 63.
Yeah, at 63, he was a young man, and actually, I have stood all along saying that the 2022 election, regardless, even if some candidates I supported, they didn't win, that was the most free and fair election. He stood firm. The election was, in the first place, was open to the public. It was on the portal. That was the first time we had an election where anybody would go and get those results. And actually he stood firm. And as he said, so one time he said that he still says that the result was free and fair. And actually he has been honored. He has been giving lectures all over the world about electoral integrity.
Correct. And what I will tell you is this. There's not one single chairman of the Electoral Commission in Kenya, whichever name you would call it, either before the new constitution or after, who has left that office celebrated by millions of Kenyans. Because there is one half of Kenya, as you may have realized, Kenya is divided into almost 2 equal opposite divisions when there is an election. since the year 2002, 1992, when you had the first multi-party elections in Kenya. Even when we had Chesoni, even when we had Isaac, now Chebukati, they elicit very strong feelings from those who have lost. Because there's going to be a loser in any way, shape, or form. When there's a contest, there is going to be a loser. Losers who, unfortunately, if they're like our current president of the United States, who only celebrates when he wins.
When he wins.
And doesn't acknowledge that the same institution that pronounced him as a winner can also pronounce him as a loser when he loses, then you are always going to be the chairman who will never really make that person happy. When they lose. So in this case, I agree with you. It's a principle. I mean, nobody, even the new one who is going to come, will always be equally condemned by the losers.
But we would really want where I wish he could have lived so that he can mentor a person who came to office. I mean, he did a good job, and I think Kenyans need really to celebrate him, that where he reached the country, he had raised the bar about electoral integrity in Kenya.
Correct. Take an example of Melita's, the former Chief Justice Maraga.
Yes.
When he was reading and was the Chief Justice, when the first time in the history or actually in the history of the world, that a sitting president is a winning a ticket was nullified, he was condemned. Condemned so strongly by millions of Kenyans who were on the side that thought they had won. But today, the same people who condemned him a few years down the road are looking back and they're saying, we want a Maraga.
Now, do you think that Kenyans, we have some amnesia? I don't know how I can call it. We seem to forget so fast. Or do we have that of celebrating a person when he has left? What is it? Because and you have given a very good example of Maraga. It's like people are condemning him, and yet now the same people want him. They see that he stood for the truth. See that we
Absolutely.
Forget.
Absolutely. And if you go back to how much was condemned, the former Chief Justice at the time when he nullified that election of 2017, he was so severely condemned by people who feel like now they need somebody like Maraga to be the chairman of IEBC. And I wish we can find somebody like him. And what they don't realize is in a contest, any contest where there are two people or three or more than one, there is going to be a loser. And when people who are running for office, they have something unique that is not in the general public. When you bring yourself to the context, you have an ego, big ego. And you stand in front of a mirror every morning and you see yourself as the winner of whatever you are contesting about. So when you have no idea that you might lose, there is always going to be an explanation. And we always point at somebody else, but not ourselves when we lose. And always the father figure of whatever institution that is conducting the elections is the person to be pointed at. And that's the chairman.
Yeah, don't you think this might scare people to run for this office? Number one, it looks as if this seat as a jinx, what we can call a jinx. We have had we had Chesoni, and then we had Kivuitu. Kivuitu is the one who ran the Electoral Commission of Kenya. And then we had the IEBC, which was run by Hassan, which is a president for IEBC. It's almost the same, but it was kind of different. Now, talking about the two, Kivuitu conducted election in 2002, and they thought that was the most free and fair election. Then come 2007, Kivuitu bungled the election. I mean, he announced the result which was against the people, and we went into violence, and many people died. And Kivuitu died exactly 2 years, 7 months, and 23 days later. Chebukati, since he announced also the election, it has been 2 years, 7 months, 22 days.
Really, exactly to the dot?
Yeah. I saw that somewhere. People are smart, they know that. Do you think people might fear that there is a jinx in the seat of chairmanship of IEBC? Well, Hassan is there. Hassan left office, so
Hassan is still alive, so that really dispels it. It's only two out of 3. Number 2, these 2 individuals conducted elections in 2 different periods of time in history.
Yeah.
Completely during the first, the constitution that was not there before.
Yeah.
Where the electoral process was not as clear and clean as it is today. Yeah. That Chebukati was helping midwife. Now, number 2, and most importantly, people must realize that, like I mentioned before, that people will lose elections. And that if you compare the 2, especially 2007 and the last election, they are diametrically different if you look at them. In 2007, if honestly you look at it, the context was very different. You look at it, it was a sitting president who was defending his seat. In 2022, it was open-ended. The sitting president was not defending his seat. So that's the first difference. Number 2, the constitutions were different at the time. Number 3, the electoral process had not been crystallized to what it is today. That's number 3. Number 4, Kibaki was laid back and was not as aggressive as the 2 contestants of 2022.
Yeah.
And number 3, and most importantly, the process leading up to the announcement of the election was kind of, that's what we say, bungled.
Yeah.
Because even he at the end said, I didn't know who won.
I didn't know who won. Actually,
when a chairman says that, that's like notifying, like no winner here.
Now looking at Chebukati, in 2017, he had just come into office 7 months to the election. Actually, the secretariat, even Chiroba, who was the CEO of IEBC, was even more stronger than the chairman. When the election was nullified, Chebukati went back to ask for the High Court to give him the detail. What do they mean by a free and fair election? What is supposed to be done? And what they gave, the outline they gave is what he followed when he came to 2022. And the result was amazing, that even the the media houses were told, go, don't ask for me, go to the bottom and get the results. So they were panicking and they were not organized, but everything was public. And I think he had remember he had an issue. First of all, some commissioners resigned earlier. They were protesting against Chebukati, but he was resilient. Even when the second time, the new ones who came in to replace the other one, they protested during the election because they wanted to push for a runoff and what. But let's say that his legacy, what Kenya will write about this man called Chebukati, I think is a good son of the soil, and who need actually to be mourned like a national hero.
I agree with you 100%. Why perhaps people want to differentiate between the winner of the election versus the chairman who declared him the winner. People are not unhappy with Chebukati per se. If things were running well, if the economy is running well, if everybody is happy, they will not even remember how President Ruto came to power.
Yeah.
Now there are some. I think it's what we call misguided, projected anger.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Even if it was Raila who won, there's another half of the country that would be very unhappy with Chebukati.
But let me ask you, in the 2022 election, why was it like almost the only election petition we had was presidential? Governor races, senator races, everybody accepted the result. How could the presidential be the only one people contested? You realize that there were not many petitions.
I don't know. I didn't go back to check how many petitions were there, but I thought there was one that was notified. A member of parliament notification of an election. I'm not sure. That is still out there. I can't confirm that because I really never followed soon after.
But most of them we had governance races. We didn't have a problem. I mean,
in the tenor, if you look at the tenor spectrum, yes, there were very few complaints on the lower seats. Even when the Asmi or Umoja went to to the Supreme Court to contest, even though I don't think they had a very strong case, honestly. They were in what we call they were in expedition for searching for some reason to given what the resources they had so much resources.
When I saw them they were carrying all of those many boxes, I say, what evidence is that? But the judgment, it vindicated him. And actually Kenyans, we also need to what I learned from Chebukati, if we can have people like Chebukati who will stand firm. I know Ruto was running against a very strong force. He was not with the government. That was true. But he won. Sometimes I do accept I was in supporting Ruto, but I accepted that he won. He won the election. And that is how we want people to stand firm.
Exactly. And you want somebody who stands firm even when you lose, because if they don't, in the future, when you need somebody who stands firm, you will not find them. Yeah. So it's a good principle to stand firm today, even when people are accusing you. Because when these same people will look for somebody who is strong and firm, just like the former Chief Justice Maraga, they will look for you.
Exactly. When
Absolutely.
You stand now,
when you stand with it.
How do you see the future of Kenya in terms of electoral integrity? And right now we don't have even a commission, not even one commissioner in that. And the 2027 is just around the corner.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad again you mentioned in 2017, Chebukati came into office only 7 months into an election.
Yeah.
So in the same way that he was able to midwife that election and even nullify, and it was nullified, of course, because he wasn't in office for a long time to put guardrails in place. This time round, we are in 2025. And I'm told from the way they are moving with speed, there will be a commission in office by July this year.
Yeah.
That will be 2 years to an election date, more than 2 years.
Yeah.
So I believe more than 2 years is sufficient enough to help those people get into place, wet their feet, move with speed, and prepare for an election. 2 years is long enough. What they can, however, not be able to succeed is to meet the timelines for electoral boundaries. Because the Constitution says that every 12 years, there has to be a review of the current existing electoral boundaries with a view of either eliminating or adding a few or on and on. they may not have enough time to do that. But for midwiving an election as it is, I think 2 years is more than sufficient enough. The reason why I say that is there exists a secretariat already.
Yeah.
There exists an infrastructure already. There exists boundaries already. There are too many things are existing and are in place that they are going only to build upon what already exists to start preparing for 2 years away elections. And number three, and most critical, we have pending by-elections.
Exactly.
There are several pending by-elections. These pending by-elections are going to be test runs for the new commissioners.
Yeah.
To prepare themselves for the major general election. So they will not say that this is the first time we are going into office and this is the first time we are going to hold an election. They will have between now and 2027 a number of by-elections that they'll be using, which are spread. I think there are more than 20 MCA open seats. There are more than 5, I think, a member of parliament elections and on and on. So they do have several test runs they can use to test their capabilities.
Yeah. Now, given that because we are talking about the life of Chebukati and we want to see any management lessons or leadership lessons we can learn from there. Many people left there. Some of them were calling Chebukati a bully, a dictator, those commissioners. What would you advise the selection panel, which has been put, I don't know, they are put in place to select the commissioners? What lesson can they learn maybe from the quality of the commissioners they are selecting to their office?
I know, Ari, in your statement, you said that people might be afraid. I will say this. Good people might be afraid. Good, qualified people might be afraid to offer themselves for public service when they know what is awaiting them.
Yeah.
However, the selection committee should look at the history of that person and see and look at their integrity. Measuring integrity is hard, but looking at the history of what that person has performed historically, where they have performed and how they have been performing, can give them an insight on how they will behave, especially in the event there is intense pressure, because this is a high intense job. It's like manning a nuclear power plant where you cannot close. We cannot close your eye even for a second.
Yeah, I think that's a very good illustration you have given.
So they should look at that. Number two, and most critically, Chebukati may have midwives and may have been principled, but there's also a way you can be principled yet be open and read with cooperative effort.
Yeah.
What I will really Ray and ask the commission to look at is to look at a farm reader who is cooperative.
Yeah.
In a manner and very transparent, in a manner that the people you are working with cannot turn against you even when things are going wrong. If he was cooperative enough and there was documentation, the commissioners who broke away would not have done what they did because he had no evidence of the cooperative effort and delegation of duties that they were looking for. And number three, and most importantly, these commissions look at people who cannot easily be compromised. There were a few people who were in that commission who may have appeared to be talking the truth, but they were compromised.
No, that's one of the reasons I have this issue. Why we tend to choose people, some who are pro this group, some from this group. That's how Kenya, as you say, is divided. Why can't we outsource the selection of these commissioners to international firms like KPMG or Pricewater to do? People send their CV, they look at them and then he choose them independently of this way we choose people who are having some political leanings.
let me tell you, and I'm not really a prophet here. Even if we chose an angel from heaven, there's going to be finger pointing. What I think we need to change though is when we announce and where to announce the presidency from. The fact that we are waiting to get results from a constituency when we are actually announcing the winner at the polling station level, the fact that we are announcing the presidency at the national level is, I think, is an undoing to ourselves.
Exactly.
I think we should announce the winners at the local levels, and that's it. The fact that we are waiting for some chairman in Nairobi to receive results that we already know from the local level to announce them, it really creates room for doubt. So what we need to do, decentralize this thing. Don't centralize it, decentralize it, and make sure that whatever is announced at the local level is actually what is announced in aggregate.
Yeah, I think you have a point there. Why can't we take this to counties? I mean, all of the election is done in counties. So the media is already waiting, saying, oh, we are waiting from Kisii County. Here, what was the total for the presidential election? Mombasa. So everything. So even people will calculate for themselves the result.
Yeah.
But was what was there in 2022 anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly what was there, but still we were waiting for the chairman to declare the presidency. So
well.
Because they said until he declares, nobody will declare.
I know you might be brainwashed magic with what the US does. I mean, you can, where we wait and CNN says that now we can project the winner of the presidential election after looking at the electoral map. But maybe we are going there. I think Chebukati raised the bar. That's where we are heading. If people would build on what I saw some laws, they want to say that they don't want to transmit those results again. I think we are going to the dark times. But if we build on the 2022 election, I think we'll be there where you're saying.
Yeah, I agree. Because honestly, if at the polling station, people should announce so and so got this, we are done. And the elections will be done quickly.
Even Raila's team had already tallied the election and they knew they had lost the election. They weren't trying to manipulate the election. That's what other people say. They had all the polling stations. They had all the agents from other polling stations. Are you seeing the point?
And they lost.
They knew.
So to remove that manipulation, which is what we are saying, it's the announcement should not be left to one person to declare the presidency. Here is how the official results should not come from one man. Official results will come from that level, the local levels. That's where the official results are announced. So this secretariat at Nairobi is just like for lack of words. It's not. It's just understanding what has already been announced at the local level.
Let me tell you, during the last election, when they were complaining, everything was on the portal. I randomly went on the portal to see if there is any manipulation. First of all, I started with the local, the one I knew. I would go and download from I don't know that for what. Then I called people. They have even that form is handwritten. People sign with their IDs and their cell phone numbers.
Yeah.
I verified. I called people. How was the result? Exactly. They tell you the result was there. Because it is the most, in the US, I conduct the election here. Kenya's election is most secure than the US election. Do you know that here in the US election, you are not even supposed to ask somebody's ID? It's not a matter unless you volunteer or you are registering for the first time. or when a person comes, it's only to ask you your name, and they will key in your name, your first name, and then he will ask you what's your address. Because if you verify the address, you say, oh, okay, that's the correct person. They print you something to go and get a voters. But in Kenya, you have a biometric. They use your fingerprints. So even if you don't vote, nobody will vote on your name, because where is he going to get your biometric identification?
And absolutely, and I agree with you that our Kenyan process is very stringent. Is in fact, sometimes I would call it challenges so many people not to even go vote.
Yeah.
What I agree with you again is the secureness is good. What we have a problem in Kenya is not how secure it is. It is the result. The process is very secure, but the problem only comes after people have walked away from the polling stations. They have gone, they have voted, they have done everything good, but the announcement, that's where the problem begins.
And that is where Chebukati stood firm. He told the media, go to the portal. When you are asking for result, go to the portal. He was only doing according to the procedure that before he announces, he has to get all those forms from the constituency, verify them with what is on the portal, that this is correct, before he can announce.
Yeah.
It's just a procedure.
It's a procedure. And here is what I suggest so that people in the future cannot be afraid to be chairman. Official results should not even be done at the county level. They should be done at the constituency level.
Even at the polling station. Actually,
yes.
According to the High Court recommendation, election results are supposed to be announced at the polling station. It has to be verified, because you have to verify how many biometric entry you got, how many votes were cast, how many were spoiled. When they tally, that's when you know that you have done the
correct. So I agree, and that's where the official results would be announced, and that would be final.
Yeah. So anyway, we were mourning. I think Chebukati was a great man. There is before we finish, I also, one of the most current event, Raila was running for an AUC seat, and he lost. I think you got it. And what is the political implication in Kenya now that some people were banking that if Raila goes to the African Union, he will leave local politics alone. Now that he's back, what do you see is going to happen in the local politics?
Yeah, thank you again for switching gears here. I think what we learned from these are three things before even we look at the future, predicting the future. What we learned from this election is Kenya's foreign policy, as it stands today, was one of the main reasons why the former prime minister lost. Kenya's foreign policy is in samples. Kenya's foreign policy is not in tandem with the African Union ideals. Kenya's foreign policy is inward-looking and selfish. So in that way, most African countries voted not because they were voting for the winner, but they were voting against what they perceived to be not African of the African interests. That's number two. So it requires number two. Therefore, it requires the Kenyan presidency or leadership to do self-re-examination and see their position within the African Union, and maybe adjust how they do their diplomacy. In that way, we can move forward as a continent. And now coming back home, the rest of the African continent noticed, though, that the campaign was more about the local politics of Kenya than it was about the interests of the African Union. And now that the president of Kenya lost, because it's him who lost in this case, because his interests were before the interests of the nation, it's going to be very challenging for him, because he was already wagging his tongue and appetizing and being happy that he has a constituency that he was going to inherit for the next election. that constituency now is not readily available to him. Was it going to be true? I don't think so, because Kenyans, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm an analyst here. I'm not on the ground, and maybe I'm talking about my wishes. But the idea that President Ruto was going to inherit our ODM constituency in the next elections, I think is far-fetched. The current electorate in Kenya is now becoming more dynamic. There's nobody who holds one constituency in his pocket and they can just hand it over to the next person. We saw that during the last election. Uhuru Kenyatta did not do the same thing. So the same thing will happen to Ruto. The fact that Raila is not going to run doesn't mean that he's going to pack or anybody and everything that Raila had. That's my take.
Yeah, well, me, I totally agree with your analysis, but I had also a different view. I don't think Raila was fit for that seat. That is, running a secretariat of African Union. Raila has been a prime minister. Raila is larger than he is, more like presidential. That seat required somebody not of the caliber of Raila. One, they needed somebody who runs their secretariat, because we have a chairman among the president of Africa. We have the chairman. So actually, being the chairman of African Union Commission, that's a secretariat. I would think Raila is the one who was running for president. I thought he was now running more to be the secretary of the Teacher Service Commission. To me, I look at it. And actually, when they were looking at it, that was not a seat of an 8-year-old man to go and get an apartment in Addis Ababa to wake up every morning to go to work. To me, that was a misplaced priority for Raila, to me. And when he had a presidency, that this is a man who has worked like a president, and how would the president of another country, maybe Congo, can call him and say, "Can I have this report here?" I doubt. So going to Djibouti, and as you say, Kenya is, Kenya is more of a top dog in Africa. It backs, and I don't think. Even now, for example, the seat was going to West Africa. I highly doubt if a Nigerian would be given that position. Probably somebody from Gambia would become a chairman of the commission, but not somebody from Nigeria. There is that feeling that these are top dogs, they want to control us. So that was one of my takes.
I agree with you, and again, the person they selected, like to a certain extent, it's true that he was either overqualified and old.
Yeah.
Because in the last commission, there was a Kenyan who was a vice chairman, Miencha, who was a vice chairman for that secretariat. And I thought, yes, he was a vice chairman.
Technically, we were disqualified to run, I think. Did they change that?
There was a Miencha who was a Kenyan who was a vice chairman for a period of 6 years during not the immediate commission, but the previous one, who was deputizing Ms. Suma. Miencha actually is from Kisii as well. So that person was even more qualified to learn for the chairmanship.
Yeah.
And he had no political leanings.
You see.
So I agree with you that they brought forward somebody who was overqualified.
Tell him if you were asked, the guy who took from Djibouti, we have never heard of anything. He was just a prime minister. I think he was
a minister for foreign affairs. Yeah.
I mean, that is the kind of seat. So
he was like a Tunchu of Kenya.
Yeah. So actually, that was a smaller seat for a man of his caliber where he had reached. But that was a good way that we also learn. Later, Kenya reflected themselves and see how they position themselves in Africa. But let it not be, it was not, let us not condemn ourselves. Let us accept that the man we put for that position, he was overqualified for the job.
Yeah, to say it in a mild way, he was overqualified.
Okay, our time is first one. Thank you for. Did you have anything to say? Our time is on here.
Yeah, again, where Kenya is today, as you said, the dynamics now are changing fast. And Kenyans are looking at the economy more than they are looking at who is going to be the next running for office. And I think Kenyans are yearning not for the same old dogs in the politics. They are yearning for a new start. And once the query is around a new person who is new to the leadership of the country, who hasn't been in politics, I think Kenyans are yearning for a new person to disrupt this current system, who has not been a career politician. I think that's where we are heading to. I predict we are heading there, and Kenyans are ready now for somebody who has not been a career politician. Maybe somebody like Dr. Fred Matiang'i.
Yeah, people of that caliber, and maybe we can go where, like if I can paraphrase what Martin Luther said one time, that it will reach a time that we will choose people because of the content of their character, not their race. Probably we will reach there if we can go for a content of character, not where they are ethnic.
And to finish, I want to add this. The current administration is afraid. It's very afraid for getting somebody like Dr. Matiang'i, because you can see what they are starting to do. They are smearing him. They are doing every campaign not to have somebody like him, just like they did Martin Luther King. They smeared him a lot because they feared him so much. Dr. Matiang'i is feared by the president's administration.
We want to wish that Kenya will get another chairman like Chebukati, even if other people don't agree. But I think that if we can have a good man who will stand firm or a woman who will stand firm for election, Kenya will be heading somewhere. Thank you very much.